Ah, Nintendo, Nintendo, Nintendo. You silly dog. You're responsible for most of our childhood memories, the best games of all time. But also, some of the worst selling consoles. It's a bad rap for you, Nintendo, but I love you to death. I think we can all agree that the Nintendo 64 was a massive flop. It only sold 32 million units, and compared to the PlayStation, which sold 101, that's a third of what it sold. It really did not do well with the competition. But why? Why did the Nintendo 64 fail? It was a neat console. I think I have 3 key reasons that appealed to its failure, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about them right now. I'm Navy Kid, and this is why the Nintendo 64 failed. The Nintendo 64 is an interesting little console. Originally, back in '92, there was meant to be a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo that was helped develop by Sony. You already heard the story before, but after the deal shattered, Sony made the PlayStation a 3D capable console, so Nintendo had to keep up on the times. Unfortunately, development for the system was extremely rocky. It got delayed so many times that people even questioned if it would even come out. But eventually it did, releasing with 2 launch titles here in North America. A little sad, but hey, at least one of them was Mario 64, and we can all agree that game was super influential. 3D games that we know today wouldn't really exist with it to lay the groundwork. It was impressive, but not a system seller all too much. It started off really well, but it just flopped hard at some point. So, what are these 3 reasons that the Nintendo 64 failed? Reason number 1. Cartridges. I've already made it apparently clear, the PlayStation used discs. Now, discs and cartridges, there was a bit of war between them, and we already know how that turned out. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages of cartridges? Discs, they could hold a lot more data, hold audio and video files that were extremely high quality, and they were so much cheaper to produce. Cartridges, they plugged in directly to the system, so they had way faster load times. That's really it. That, and they were harder to pirate, but I don't think the consumers cared about that. Well, the cartridges, they did fine, but they could hold way less data, meaning a lot of less developers went to it. The Nintendo 64 actually suffered not just because the cartridges couldn't hold bigger and better games, also because since people didn't want to develop for the system, it had major software droughts throughout its lifetime, which ultimately ended up in failure zone. So, it was a little depressing to see. If maybe some more third-party developers actually developed for the system, it might have actually done a lot better, but as we know, the PlayStation had over 5,000 games for it, yet the Nintendo 64 had a little over 200 North American games, which was a little sad. The Nintendo 64's second reason of failure has to do with when it came to market. I mean, geez, the PlayStation and Sega Saturn released in 1994, and the Nintendo 64 was set to release in 1995, a year behind the competition. That would have been fine. It got delayed so much it released in 1996. This was horrendous for sales, because the 3D machines already existed by then. The only reason to buy a Nintendo 64 at that point was because you were a Nintendo fan. There was nothing else selling you on the system. The PlayStation was far better and released earlier. I guess the Nintendo 64 was the most powerful machine on the market, but that didn't matter simply because the PlayStation was 2 years ahead. It was terrible for sales. Nintendo has tried later down the line to release consoles earlier, and it has played out sometimes pretty well, but this was just awful. Nintendo just failed in this aspect. The third and final reason was the marketing. It wasn't very good. They didn't market this thing well. There's not much to go into depth about this point. It's just to say that Nintendo marketed this thing extremely well, making great advertisements when they really didn't. Yeah, this all contributed to the Nintendo 64's failure. However, today, in many people's eyes, including mine, it's seen as such a cool little piece of tech. But why is that? This controller is dogged on all the time, but in recent years, it's been praised, and I completely agree. The controller was innovative in so many ways, 3D games being controlled with the analog stick. These nice grippable things. This was an innovative controller, but just what is this thing? The 3 handles was a bit of an odd choice, I'll admit. And this analog stick hasn't aged well, the plastic is uncomfortable, and it's really cheaply made. But at the time, and right now, it's still incredibly innovative. It was a great little piece of a way to control games. It was impressive. Nowadays, yeah, it's not as fun to use, but I still actually enjoy it. It melts well in your hands. It had a great game library. This is where Mario Party started. This is when Mario Kart got good. This was the first 3D Mario appeared on the system. Just a staple of Nintendo. Seriously, the amount of good games on this system is outmatched. Certainly there weren't as many games to choose from, but there were plenty of good ones. The design makes me question life, but let's be honest, it's super charming and really cute. I like the little wave on the front, it's kind of adorable. Honestly, the Nintendo 64 really did deserve to sell more. It just didn't due to a lot of factors. I think that maybe if they made a few more games or used discs, it would have sold a lot better. Let's be honest, it's such a charming little console, and I'm glad I have one for my collection. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, remember to like and subscribe, and comment your favorite Nintendo system down below. I'm happy to hear what you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.